we've had a chance to influence so many lives globally. And so, as a sports um, institution, we have this opportunity to affect change. And to be straight with you, Greenie, I felt a bit of NBA privilege. I've heard this term white privilege, and I felt somewhat of an NBA entertainment privilege in that I could basically hide behind my finances, my house, this gated community, and be a bit incubated from the issues that many of my brothers and sisters are dealing with. And fundamentally, in my heart, I felt something wrong with that. And I didn't want to get 20 or 30 years down the line and have conversations with my kids and have to tell them that I didn't attempt to do anything during this moment. And so it's a bit outside of my wheelhouse to uh, write a letter like that. But I'm thankful that Dean Sawyer with the Suns and Robert Sarver and many others with the organization backed me, along with some help from my mentor, Pastor Bill Gebhardt, and his wife, Velma. Um, but it was one of those deals that I felt like I had to be a part of the solution rather than just go home and live my life like it didn't affect me personally, so I didn't have to do anything about it.
So many of your players, Monty, are such young men. I wonder what conversations you're having with them through the
Yeah,
eyes of an older man in yourself.
we had a Zoom chat a couple of days ago, and the whole point of the chat was to validate their feelings. I grew up in Colonial Virginia back in the early 70s and 80s, and I lived a life that was a bit different than theirs. I was called things that I don't even want to say on TV, and I understand that they don't live that life, but to whom much is given, much is required. And so we wanted them to know that, yeah, you do have a position where you can affect change. I'm not here to persuade you or push you to do that, but I also want you to know that whatever you're feeling, um, it's validated and supported, and I love you. These are weird times. Our guys have had a lot stolen from them. And when I look at my children, I see what they've had stolen from them, graduations and friendships and sports opportunities. And our guys have had a lot to deal with this year. And so the call was to validate their feelings, listen to them, tell them that I love them because I hadn't seen them in a while, and support them in whatever they want to do.
Without violating any confidence, I'd be interested to hear what sorts of questions your players may have had or what concerns. What did they voice to you?
They were frustrated. Um, and for the most part, guys, they want some direction because they don't know what to do in situations like this. And I think sometimes your voice seems really small with a problem like this. And some of them felt like it wouldn't, not that it wouldn't matter, but they didn't know if it would make a difference. And I think that's sad when we feel that way. I felt that way, and I had to be given confidence to go ahead and do what I did. And so we talked about that. We talked about understanding what people were going through, even the people that were looting, even though we didn't agree with it to a man. You understood the frustrations of many, many people, especially young people around our world and our country who are watching things that aren't right. And, you understand their frustrations. I think Martin Luther King said, riot is the language of the unheard. And I think we have to have better organization in our protest, but we certainly understood as a team what people were feeling.
You mentioned your three sons earlier in this conversation. It seems a good place to finish here. You also mentioned them in your letter. What conversations are you having with them?
Yeah, it's a really cool time in our home to be able to grab all three of them and watch different outlets on television and explain to them what's right and what's wrong. But it's also sad to have two African American sons and one Caucasian, and know that no matter how much I talk to them, there's going to be people that see them differently. And I have to explain to those boys every single day that they have to treat people with love, respect, service, defend those who can't defend themselves, and that we're all the same. And it's their obligation to serve no matter what's going on. And so I spend a ton of time talking to them, and then I listen. And it's interesting to hear the perspective of a 13, 12, and 9-year-old when they watch the protest and the violence and the people reacting on television.
If I may, it's a very personal, but if I may, what
Yeah,
is their reaction? What sorts of things are you hearing from kids? My kids are older than that. My kids are 19 and 17. They have an adult's understanding of what it is that they are seeing, I think. What is a kid's understanding of it?
they usually don't say much. It's what you read from their faces that really impacts me. It's a long stare, and then they look at me with the same stare, and then they look back at the television. Um, they're not used to seeing that. They're used to watching sports and watching fishing and hunting with me on television. And ever so often, I'll show them a speech of Martin Luther King or something going on that's socially important. So as we watch this, it's amazing to watch them stare at the TV, and that stare tells me that they know this is not right. When they see a man dying on national TV, kids give you straight up, honest, unfiltered answers, and sometimes it's through their expressions, and their expression that I've seen is an expression of sadness, and it's almost like they're looking at me at times to say, "Daddy, can you make this right?" And it's really humbling to look back at them and feel powerless, but their expressions are priceless, and it's an awesome time for me to teach them right from wrong and love versus hate and what they have to do to be productive in our society.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.